So if you're looking for a strategy so you can paddle into waves when it's a little less steep so you don't risk nosediving, then you're in luck, because that's exactly what we're going to cover in today's video. I'm going to keep it nice, short, sweet and concise so that you can implement this into your surfing today. The question that we had today was from Kate, and it was a really good one with regards to how do we get into waves a little bit earlier when it's softer so we don't risk nosediving. This is a really common problem that I see, and I've developed a good strategy to make sure that you can get your waves and get into them a little bit earlier without risking nosediving, which, as we know on longboards, can become a bit of a problem. The structure of the video today is going to be me discussing exactly what we need to do and what this strategy is, and then I'm going to show you a real-time example of me doing this and how it works so that, again, you can implement it into your surfing as soon as possible. And as always, if you've got some friends who think they might get something out of this as well, make sure you share it with them. Let's get into the video. Stoked to be back for another tip time with you guys today. And I think this one will be really good, because I hope what you guys can get out of this is to learn how to paddle into the wave earlier, which, especially if we're moving from our beginner to intermediate phase, it's a great way to allow us to have a lot of time at the start of the wave to get our positioning right, both on the board and the wave. And of course, as always, it's good to try and avoid the nose diving as well, which is what this really is made for. So I do want to start by first addressing the key problem that I see with paddling into waves. It's essentially where we use a start, stop, start method, which is where we're paddling for the wave, paddling hard, and then as the wave gets to us, we want to try and avoid nose diving. So you'll notice you lean back and stop paddling, and then as the wave lifts you and you get to the top of the wave, you start paddling again. Unfortunately, with this method, what we see is we lose all of our speed, and by the time we're at the top of the wave, it's too late to regain our momentum and speed paddling into the wave. And so what we do need to do is stop doing this start, stop, start method, and we actually move into a continuous paddle to be able to get into the wave. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I can paddle continuously and I'm worried about nosediving, won't I just nosedive? And that's where I want to try and clarify things a little bit for you. With our paddling in, I always like to make sure that we're giving ourselves plenty of time to build our speed and generate momentum. If we leave it to a last minute dash, then this is where we typically don't build up enough speed as well and we miss the wave. But we need to continuously paddle for the wave and not stop before we pop up. What this looks like is paddling and building up our speed, and we actually need to make sure that we double down when the wave gets to our tail. So when you feel like the wave has just started to lift you, that's when we need to press the chest into the board. Sometimes people even pop their chin on the board, and then we try and drive forwards as much as you can to try and catch that wave. Now, this is a crucial period for paddling into the wave, and it is actually the most crucial period to generate speed and momentum. And this is why it's such a problem when people back off at this point in position where the wave has just gotten to their tail, because we need to double down here. We have to double down to be able to catch the wave and generate the momentum. If we back off here, this is where we're going to lose all of our speed. So this is why this is so important. Now, if you are noticing that the nose is starting to flicker, then I would say we can actually use this as a cue to actually pop up. If we think we're going to nosedive, we can actually pop to our feet, and this is the best position we can be on if we think we're going to nosedive, because we can put all of our weight onto the back foot to stop us from nosediving. We can actually just shift our weight easily if we popped up quickly onto the back foot, which is going to prevent us from nosediving in the first place. The other thing I like to think about here, and why that flickering of the water over the nose, which might be a cue that we're going to nosedive, we can rewire this as a cue to pop up, is because if we've got a steeper angle of the board and we're actually worried about nosediving, it's probably telling us that the angle of the board is in a position such that if we pop up, we're going to be able to continue and carry through that wave's energy as well. It's a really good cue that we can kind of redirect from being worried about to actually using as a strategy to help us out. And the other positive that you'll also see with this method is sometimes you might think, okay, these people seem to be paddling into the wave so easily, whereas you feel like you're having to battle and fight for every single wave. The reason is they're making the most of this crucial period to generate momentum and catch the wave speed, which is when the wave is just touching the tail and we're down the bottom of the wave. So if you paddle hard here and make the most of that section, then as the wave brings you up, you've already generated the speed and you're on the wave. Whereas if we stop there and then we're trying to tackle ourselves back onto the wave once we're at the top, this is where you feel like you're putting in so much effort to catch the wave, but unfortunately we're still unable to get onto it. So there are efficient ways that do make things seem really easy, and let's get into exactly how that happens right now. All right, so let's get into the first example now. But as you can see, this initial position where I'm kind of sussing the wave out, the wave hasn't reached me yet, but I've still gotten in a few paddles beforehand to generate the momentum and the speed going into it. And then what you can see is as soon as that wave touches the tail, now my position changes. Instead of looking down the line, which I suppose you can still look down the line, but my chest goes down, my chin goes low, and my shoulders are moving forward. So I'm really trying to generate as much momentum going forwards as possible. And this is the time when I've got to make that really hard entrance into the wave. And then you can see now I've generated a lot of the speed and momentum. I may need to, on most waves, carry this through with a few more paddles, but right now, I'm pretty confident and comfortable that I've gotten that wave. So I'm starting to look down the line again, and this is where sometimes it can be frustrating, because when we're paddling or trying so hard to catch waves and we see people kind of cruising onto waves really easily, it's because of this first little element, this first step, making sure we're emphasizing and paddling hard, getting the chest and chin down low when the wave first gets to us, and then we kind of can just cruise on. There'll of course be some waves that we can't do this on, where the wave is just simply too flat to catch, but in instances like this, we can get in a bit earlier by using that chest and chin into the board method, getting in that hard paddling nice and early, and then we can cruise and take our time from there, rather than trying to rush everything with a super steep wave as we saw before. And I did have another example that I wanted to show as well that I thought exemplified it nicely. So I like this one because you can tell that I've generated no speed beforehand, so it's all the more important that I make sure that I hone in on this emphasis of the paddle when the wave first gets to me. So you can see that here, and checking the wave out, and as soon as the wave gets to me, you can see now before I'm at the top of the wave, so as the wave reaches the tail, chest and chin nice and low, I'm directing myself straight ahead, and I'm really focusing on getting a lot of speed and momentum in this time. And then you can see from there, nice and early, I can bring myself into that kind of cobra semi-pushed up position, glide into the wave, and then I can also make sure I'm popping up at the top of the wave, which is also what we want to do. So I think there's a couple of good examples there, and I think this is such a good, valuable thing. It's probably the thing that I've seen click in a lot of the surfers I've coached really, really nicely, and it transitions people from a lot of frustration and difficulty catching waves to being able to catch waves more reliably earlier, and they're giving themselves time. I hope that's been really, really useful for you today. If you have any questions with this, or if you do have any further suggestions for tip time, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and get to those in some of the coming weeks. But once again, thanks everyone for the incredible support, and we'll catch you on the next one. Yep.